Hello students, welcome back in my channel. In this video, we'll study about respiration in humans. Now see the diagram of the respiratory system. First of all, you can see this is the nasal cavity just behind the nose, and this nasal cavity then opens into the pharynx. This pharynx opens into larynx, and larynx opens into trachea, which is also called windpipe. It has two branches called bronchi. In singular, you'll call it bronchus. In plural, it is known as bronchi. And these bronchi enters into the lungs. These are the lungs you can see. Two lungs we have. And remember, this one is the lungs, and this one is the left lung. Sometimes it is asked that mark the left lung, suppose. So this one, because if you are standing in this position, then this will be your left lung. And then this bronchi has so many root-like structures called bronchioles. These bronchioles have the balloon-like structures called alveoli, and then down the lungs a muscular structure is present which is called diaphragm. So this is all about the diagram. Now when we breathe in air, so the term is coming breathing. Sometimes students get confused by these two terms, breathing and respiration. These are not the different terms. These are not the same terms. These are the different. Breathing means just we are inhaling and exhaling, whereas respiration is some complicated process. It is the oxidation of food which takes place inside the mitochondria. So remember, what is respiration? Respiration is the oxidation of food which takes place inside the mitochondria to release energy and carbon dioxide. Right? So when we breathe in air which has oxygen, it reaches to the nasal cavity. In nasal cavity, there are so many hairs present, fine hairs are present inside the nasal cavity. If you see in your nostrils, you also feel that there are hairs present inside, right? And the function of these hairs is just to trap the air or the filter the air, because the air which we breathe in, it has dust particles. It's not so pure. So the function of air to clean the air or to filter the air. And mucus is also present here. This mucus just brings the air at the body temperature, because sometimes in cold weather the air is very cold. It is, when we breathe in this cool air, it is harmful for us. So this mucus just makes the air warm. And when this warm air comes inside the pharynx, this pharynx also has two openings. It opens into the trachea as well as it opens into the esophagus. So because it has two openings, so its function is also very crucial, that pharynx makes sure that the food should reach to the esophagus and the air should reach to the trachea. Because you know that if any food particles reaches to the windpipe or in the trachea, it is very dangerous for person. So this pharynx, down the pharynx you can see this is a flap-like structure, and this flap-like structure is known as epiglottis. This is the flap-like structure. So this is the epiglottis, and this epiglottis is also very important part. This is just a flap-like covering, and this flap-like covering is for the purpose that as at the time of swallowing the food, it makes sure that it just covers the larynx, and when it just flap, just put down here, and then this larynx covers. When we swallow food, it covers the larynx. This is the larynx. How does it cover? You can see, like this is the flap like covering. So when we just eat the food, it just cover the larynx like this. So when it covers, the food doesn't reach into the larynx. So this is the function of epiglottis. And then when the air comes into the larynx, this larynx has the vocal cords. It is also called as voice box because the voice or the sound produces here inside this part. Because this vocal cords vibrates because of the air and produces sound. From this larynx, the air reaches to trachea. And sometimes you have seen that some people have here some pointed structure on the throat. This is called Adam's apple. In this way, you can see they have some structure like pointed structure in this way, like this. So this is known as, this structure is just known as Adam's apple. And then air reaches to trachea, and this trachea has some ring like structure. You can see here, these are the ring like structures present on trachea, and these ring like structures are known as the cartilaginous rings. And these cartilaginous rings are very important, or you can say its presence is very important, because these rings protect the trachea from being collapsed. This is again very important question. Why these cartilaginous rings present on the trachea? So the function of these cartilaginous rings, these are the cartilaginous rings you can see in this diagram. So the function of these cartilaginous rings is just to protect the trachea from being collapsed even when there is no air. You know that when you have the water pipe at home, these rubber pipes, when there is no water inside, sometimes if it is just put in the sun, you can see it collapse. And as you just start watering plant, attaching that, opening the tap, you will see that yes, it is proper now. So trachea has these rings to just protect the, these rings are present on trachea to protect the trachea from being collapsed. It doesn't collapse even when there is no air. So this is again very important question. Then air reaches to bronchi, and through these bronchi air reaches to bronchioles, and from bronchioles it comes into the alveoli. This is the large structure of alveoli you can see here. So these alveoli which you can see here, these alveoli are in balloon shaped. Why these are in balloon shaped? So that if it is opened, it covers a large surface area. So why it needed to have the large surface area? Because you know that oxygen which reaches inside the alveoli, and these alveoli are richly supplied with blood capillaries. So these blood capillaries which are present here inside the alveoli, lot of oxygen can be absorbed. The maximum oxygen you can say can be absorbed. That is why these alveoli have large surface area, and that is why it is in the balloon shaped, so that it will not take much space but it can absorb more oxygen. And when this oxygen reaches to the blood, it diffuses into the blood capillaries, and then from these blood capillaries, this blood carries the oxygen to the different parts and to each and every cell of the body. And then in these each and every cell of the body, you know that mitochondria is present, and here this oxygen act on the food. Which food? You know that in digestion you have seen that the glucose is present there, and this glucose, which is the end product of one of the end product of the digestion, this oxygen just work on this, or you can say act on this food, or food gets oxidized to release energy. Lot of energy is released, which you have seen in case of the aerobic respiration in my previous video. And then carbon dioxide is also released along with this energy. Then this carbon dioxide is taken by the blood, and this blood carries it towards the lungs, and there it reaches to alveoli, because you know alveoli have the blood capillaries, so blood reaches, which has the carbon dioxide, it reaches to alveoli, and then this carbon dioxide reaches to bronchioles, then to bronchi, and then to trachea, and then in this way it comes out through the nostrils. As you can see in the next slide, this is the movement of oxygen and carbon dioxide in and out of respiratory system. You can see here, this is the oxygen rich air from the environment we take, and this air goes to nasal cavity. From nasal cavity it enters in pharynx. From pharynx it reaches to trachea. From trachea it reaches to bronchi, and then from bronchi it comes to the bronchioles. From bronchioles it reaches to alveoli, and then after respiration, because from alveoli the blood carries this oxygen to the cells, each and every cell of the body, and then from the cells this blood carries carbon dioxide again to bronchioles, because it reaches to alveoli, then from alveoli it reaches to bronchioles, then to bronchi, and from bronchi it comes to the trachea, then again through pharynx it reaches to nasal cavity, and then from the nostrils it releases out to the environment. So what is the mechanism of inhalation and exhalation? This is again very important topic. You should know when we breathe in, then what happens, and when we breathe out, then what happens. The process of breathing in is known as inhalation or inspiration, and the process of breathing out is known as exhalation or expiration. So during inspiration or inhalation, you can see when air reaches inside the lungs, you can, when we breathe in, so what happens to the diaphragm? This, remember always, it is very important that what is the process of inhalation and exhalation. So in the process of inhalation, diaphragm contracts, and when it contracts, this is the muscular structure, when it contracts it's come down. You can see that this arrow shows it comes down. So diaphragm comes down, and this cavity increases, this lungs cavity increases in size, it expands so that the volume increases and pressure decreases here, so that more and more air comes inside the lungs. And what happens at the time of exhalation? This diaphragm relaxes, and when it relaxes it moves up, and when it moves up you can see this chest cavity decreases in size, and because of that what happens? The volume decreases, and when volume decreases pressure increases here, and because of that all carbon dioxide which is present here goes out or release out. So this is the expiration. So this inhalation and exhalation, what is the process of these two, inhalation and exhalation, learn properly, and I hope you have understood the process of respiration properly. Watch the video and subscribe the channel, and if you like the video, please like the video. Thank you.